is the story of Tokyo. Where darkness rules.
Hello again, Chris Mortensen here. We're going to have a great show with the 80s. It's going to be great. I picked out some dandy ones for you people who grew up in the 80s or raised in the 80s or knew the 80s very well. I find it very fun, and I was doing a lot of research, and this is probably going to be my hardest show that I've ever created, doing so much research, because doing that 10-year gap between movies, trying to pick out what I thought was the best. And I know a lot of you are probably going to say, why didn't you do this movie? Why didn't you do this movie? Well, it's hard, so deal with the ones I have. Here we go. Short Circuit. Here's a swell movie from the mid-80s with Ali Sheedy and Steve Guttenberg. It's a story about a robot, Johnny Five. He gets struck by lightning and he becomes alive, but nobody believes him except the two characters, and they have to escape the scientists that made him. It's a great movie. Back to the Future. Here's a title that no one needs to be explained what this movie's about, because everybody knows what this movie is about. It's the story of Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, and the Doc. It's just classic. All three movies are awesome, and it's just brilliant. National Lampoon's Vacation is the first of the vacation movies. It's very fun, hysterical. This is what family vacations you don't want to be on. But other than that, this is a good movie from the early 80s. They don't make them like this anymore. Uncle Buck. Here's a great John Hughes film, just in the late 80s. John Candy's best performance, and a winning performance of Macaulay Culkin in one of his first movies here. But it has some great laughs, classic lines. It's a great classic family movie, actually. Dirty Dancing. Oh, here's a very popular cult classic film to this day about dancing, and the soundtrack of this movie is just amazing. Jennifer Grey's one of her greatest performances, and everyone's like, oh, Dirty Dancing, Dirty Dancing. Yes, it's a great film. It's a classic movie of the 80s. Yes, Eddie Murphy's the chosen one in The Golden Child. This one's hysterical. This is like Beverly Hills Cop meets like action adventure into fantasy. But it's great. He's got some great one-liners, and I swear he improv this movie too. It's pretty funny. Great stuff he's done. Heathers. I really have gotten really confused with Heathers. It's very popular in the cult classic standings. Some people consider it a horror movie, some people consider it a comedy. It's a black comedy. It's a lot of dark humor in there. And Do the Right Thing is a very controversial film in the late 80s. Spike Lee films. One of his best films by Spike Lee, actually. It's a story of just one day in a neighborhood, and it ends with this very disturbing ending that everyone should see and put their 2 cents in. Here we go. Summer School. This is just a fun movie, and yes, it's about summer school. About a gym teacher who just wants to go on vacation, but no, he can't. He's got to stay and watch these adolescent kids who don't want to learn, so he changes their lives. It's a great movie. Here's Eddie Murphy again in Beverly Hills Cop. This is one of his best movies. He is just brilliant in this movie. And to this day, he hasn't done really thing. He was great in the 80s, and this is where he really started and did his amazing work. Great movie, and I'm sure everybody knows what this movie's about, so watch it if you haven't seen it. The Karate Kid. Another classic movie from the 80s about a struggling kid and his being picked on. And it's just a great, compelling story about how he gets enough strength to kick butt. It's fun. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is another John Hughes film. And Steve Martin and John Candy are great. They're just great partners in this movie, working together off each other. It's really well put together. It's funny, and one of Steve Martin's favorite films he's ever worked on. I recommend this movie. It's very funny, different. Footloose. Now, this movie is just plain fun. Alright, the music, I believe it's one of the #1 soundtracks of all time, Footloose. But it is fun. You just have to see this movie. It's about dancing. It's one of the best dance movies ever. Here's another classic from the early 80s. Flashdance. This one was also a great soundtrack when it came out. It's about this struggling girl who wants to be a dancer, but by day she's a welder. This is an awesome movie. It has some great choreography. It's awesome. Girls just want to have fun. Here's a movie I grew up with my sisters. It might be a little strange, yes, but no, this movie is fun. This is just a fun movie. Simple story about Sarah Jessica Parker wants to be in this favorite TV show, and it's just a contest she wants to win. And it's just fun and a simple story. 9 to 5. This one is a great movie for women to watch. About women gaining power and strength to do something they've always wanted to do, and they just want to be recognized. And here's one of the movies that just did that in the 80s. Actually, 1980. This was the first of the 80s movies. A great movie. Troop Beverly Hills. Here's another fun family one. This one is a very good family movie to watch because it's a simple story, yes, and it's outrageous and different, and I recommend this one for family to watch. E.T. Oh, here's an American classic movie that still brings me to tears every time I watch it. This is an uncanny movie, and anyone who doesn't like this movie, you need some medication, because this is just a splendid movie. Everyone should love this movie. Who doesn't like it? It's just amazing. Breakfast Club, another John Hughes film. He was so popular in the 80s with all his teen classics, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink. He was just unstoppable. And this is a great example of an awesome movie of the 80s, The Breakfast Club. Ferris Bueller is another dandy, swell, everything. Everybody quotes this movie. Everybody knows every line in this movie. This is a brilliant movie. Hysterical to this day. And Matthew Broderick will always be Ferris Bueller, I'm sorry to say. But he is just a fun movie, and I've always enjoyed this watching this with my sisters. This is an awesome movie. And Goonies! This is another great classic, ultimate movie of the 80s. The Goonies. Everyone should see The Goonies. It's just a fun adventure movie that we don't get these days, but everybody knows this movie and quotes the lines and does the stunts. It's just a great movie, and this is for John Stresna. Next week, do you want me to do a theme about the greatest 70s movies? A theme on the greatest 90s movies? Or you want me to go to just a genre into science fiction movies? Let me know, please. I would like to do a whole bunch more for you before my season's up. I think I'll do this until September, so please let me know what you want to see.